Hello there, and hello, Auntie Pat. I've trying to make a conscientious effort to speak faster just after I make the playback speed on this so slow. There we go. Okay, so I've decided to be a bit more organized and speak quicker. So basically, I'm going to talk about the pain body, how it could tie into Thomas Sheridan's definition of the control specimen, of a control specimen, seeing how overcoming the pain body could overcome karma, as contentious as that word is, and I'll go more into the contentious of that in the next video. For example, the kind of judgment that that might be put on people with disabilities and illnesses, which we will all likely get at some point. And then, for example, in an old age. And then I say about how overcoming the pain body can potentially lead to déjà vu, and how it could relate to turning points, to a higher self, thereby attracting a higher life. What do I mean by higher life? A more desired life that is also beautifully spiritually rich. So let's begin. Okay. In my last video, I got a comment from someone with a name kind of, I think his or her username was something like No Smasher. I've changed it a bit, but it is on a par with the kind of nobility and honor that you would expect from such a person with such a name. And I deleted it from my last video because I'm trying to get away from my pain body, even though I'm addressing it right now. So I'm trying to get away from witch hunts that apparently feeds the pain body. If you're not sure the pain body is, hopefully by the end of this video, you really are going to look into it from the countless free videos on YouTube connected to Eckhart Tolle, the person who gave us that term. And I'm going to just say that the pain body, it really does want to get a hate boner over anyone, really. And so even if it's a witch hunt boner, which I'll get more into later, like even a witch hunt boner for itself. But the comment that they gave me, even though the person and the way that they gave the message to me was not perfect, the lesson all the same was a good one. So it boiled down to your videos could be a little bit more organized and thus watchable. So, and I think from a nicer commenter, I think the implication was perhaps he was just, or she was just being nice, but it might have been that I could have sped up a bit. So I'm trying to take both into account here because it's good to take on feedback. So, yeah, I guess that first comment made me think, yeah, the person doesn't have to be perfect for the lesson to be, and we should allow people their unconsciousness, because that's part of not resisting the isness of the moment, as Eckhart puts it. So I think what Eckhart says about the pain body is that however much it's in you, whether however dormant or active it is, if it's normally quite an aggressive, vindictive, or labeling pain body, it would attract a similar pain body to fight with yours. And you could think of this as a feeding call. So the pain body in the other looks for any possible perceived slights, ways to hurt, and ways to be hurt, because both attacking and being attacked feeds it. So it actually does like to be hurt as well, to be put in a situation where it could be hurt. So you might want to look up the pain body after this, because it's kind of like it will hear the fight call or the feeding call, and it will kind of be like, oh, I'm here. So is it really, are they feeding each other, or are they wanking each other off? It may be less spiritual, but it goes along with that term hate boner, or let's ignore that person because of the hate boner. I just think it's such an apt term. So since thinking is related to the pain body, and my pain body, and I'm talking right now, which is based on my thoughts, it's my pain body that you're hearing, and it's one that kind of can float between the really sort of aggressive versions of itself, or depressed versions of itself, or even positive versions of itself. It's related to emotions, and the idea is to rise above that thinking mind, rather than not sinking to it, and especially not sinking below thought, like through things like intoxicants. But to sink to it is to be emotionally possessed at times. So if you're the type that would say, I'm fully realized, I'm spiritually awakened, and I'm completely happy, this or that, and that you've never felt anger or never will, or something along those lines, go away, faker. Because although we've maybe all tried to want to be like that in the past, or we've at least thought of, oh, one day I'll get the, in quotation marks, perfect partner. As we all know, those don't exist, because everyone is not perfect. Why? Because everyone has a pain body, which I don't actually diss, and I don't know if Eckhart Tolle fully disses, if that's even the right way of putting it, because I think the pain body is still valuable for things like art, music, and more refined ways. It's like we'll have more. The more you go on and learn to control it, the more I think you refine it and you use it for creativity and thinking and talking when you have to. So if we can accept that the pain body, at the very least, temporarily possesses us, to make us believe that those thoughts that we're having are our own, even though later we say things like, I don't know what came over me, or we always say things we don't really mean when we're angry. And I know I keep on coming back to the emotion of anger, but it's kind of the easiest for making my point here. And whether or not within our anger, whatever emotion we're being possessed by, whether or not they leave us grains of truth or not, it's even if it's not the perfect way of saying it, at that time, our higher self is completely unconscious. So we become like a vessel for edgelording, hate bonering. It's basically, at that time, the pain body is coming up and looking through your eyes. That's who you're seeing when you're seeing like an angry person, a depressed person, a this or that person. And it can also be triggered by things like jealousy. And since the pain body has the capacity to justify anger over anything legitimately, to even legitimately believe in the wrong thing. I say legitimately, but they just justify things like that. Hence we have the unaddressed shadow of, say, like this, the incel, the feminazis, that kind of Cain and Abel complex, especially in some countries where the brainwashing is such that it makes North Korea blush. Over there where the financial market is definitely seems to be collapsing, losing £5 worth of pussy investment. It could, somebody that's not used to things not going their way, well, they could end up, doing a stabbing in a kindergarten as revenge on society. I mean, it's debatable, isn't it? And so that's when they probably need the supposed incel god, aka Jordan Peterson, which he's not really, he's not, is he? Anyone with half a brain knows that he's not. So what he's trying to do is enable these young men and women that happen to be incels that that are kind of repressing that self-blame and making it about the other person, so they don't have to feel any responsibility. And so he goes into the whole Cain and Abel complex and kind of uses it as a way to, invoke that sense of self-responsibility. So when it comes to the pain body, you could even say that you've never met the person. Maybe occasionally you do, but then to meet their pain body, it would make you feel, for instance, betrayed. And to identify constantly as the betrayed is another kind of pain body. It's just as heavy and intense, maybe, as the virtue signaler Karen of today, as the virtuous victim or the heroically brave victim. Either way, it's a victim. And such identities are firmly rooted in the chessboard of what could be our own making too. So going back to that definition of a control specimen, going by my memory and my interpretation, right or wrongly, of what Thomas Sheridan terms, I think it was something along the lines of the control specimen will try to attack you, say online, when it senses some rise in your charisma. So, and you're meant to keep track of them so you can, see their hate and their mental deterioration escalate in tandem with your rising charisma and attracting of your life desires. And this acts as some confidence boosting corroboration that further enhances your charisma via such a seeming confirmation confidence boost. So then, are control specimens and pain bodies the same? Control specimens triggered, by the same things, I think, as the pain body, perceived slights, jealousy, personality clash, Cain and Abel in self-aminancy complexes, unaddressed shadows to project on others. It could be that you have the opposite archetype if you're strongly identified that way. And usually the pain body needs a feed because of the stress it's carrying. So it just needs an outlet, whichever one is in front of them at that time. So if the pain body is at all related to Thomas Sheridan's definition of control specimen, could it be then that the control specimen is like the pain body, but it actually permanently possesses our higher self? And so, of course, what could be the only thing that could attain bad karma? It would be the pain body. So could you break the pain body, and how? Well, as you might know, in my last video, I go over the possible nuances of karma, and I look at a Balinese Hindu myth, and I try to, I'm trying to find, I think I've found in there some possible nuance which shows that you can actually break bad karma in your life. And for me, part of what turns Rangda back into, I think her name is Siwa, back into the good being, from the bad being into the good being, is that she realizes that you cannot become too attached to your creation. So then could creation be the code word for, you've guessed it, the pain body, the identity that we become so attached to that it's able to possess us and make us, have us believe that it is us. How long is it after you meet an obnoxious arsehole, I mean a pain body, that anger still mind rapes you with fruitless ruminations about what big bloody bellend fucking piece that knobshank is, only for you to later realize that it was anger that was talking through you? And by the way, guys, Eckhart Tolle does a far better job of describing the pain body so that it's not crudely simplified down to some kind of pathetic Disney movie, I should say. But going back to Tolle, he actually says in one of his videos exactly the kind of nuance that I'm sort of mentioning in that myth, is that you can overcome your karma by overcoming your pain body. And yeah, you could make the argument that I'm just trying to look out for this in Balinese Hindu myths, and that could be the case. But if Eckhart Tolle is under the impression that he overcame his, I mean, that's the impression I get, he still says that it's okay, and he still feels strong emotions sometimes from the pain body that is still in him, that tries to transform those emotions into thoughts with your mental energy, but he doesn't give it any emotional energy when you encounter, for example, a bit of contrast, let's say. So then it was seen that if you overcome your pain body and learn to use it where necessary and, refine it for creativity, I suppose, rather than, it using you, I suppose then that leaves you with something called your higher self. So now my final points are to do with the higher self. So now, is there something that could happen to you in life where prior to it happening, you'd think, if I start thinking at that tragic time, it would be dangerous, thereby motivating you to naturally start to overcome your pain body with some supposedly bad, hopeless situation that maybe your Dharma has actually led you to help you connect to your higher self and thus manifest a desired life, a desired spiritually rich life too. And so if you're going through a lot of stress which makes you erupt, perhaps those are the signs. It's like signs of your birthing pains, so to speak. It's like you're actually in the process of giving birth to the pain body fucker, so that it will actually fuck off and get a bloody job, if you will. So say you knew that you were going to wake up, and then when you found, for example, you couldn't see. And of course, you hadn't yet mastered the skill of echolocation or even claimed for disability support. Basically, you're not Batman. And so, you didn't know how you're going to pay the bills, let alone live, love, laugh. So could there be a time, that could be a time that, if you attempted to enter your mind when you knew you just couldn't figure out a solution in that red hot minute, you'd just be getting in such a flap, wouldn't you? You'd be worrying about flipping Robin breaking in and sodomizing you for his OnlyFans page and something like that. So, that's an extreme example. Or you could be living in an extreme example, even more so. And you'd be right to want to punch me in the nose if I patronizingly tried to console you that the human soul is probably too incomprehensibly powerful for the human mind to get. I know my pain body would. If, for example, the lighter side of my pain body tried to convince it of such an idea. Disclaimer, this video is just for entertainment purposes only, just in case any mental health violator bounty hunter is on the loose and tuning in. So what I'm getting at, purely for entertainment purposes, was that there's going to be a point of seeming hopelessness and complete scary unknownness that forces you to, one, get out of your head for fear of what you could wind up thinking. And then you basically end up calling your folks at 3 a.m. their time and saying, I've fucking had it. If you cry a single tear for me at the funeral, I'm going to get right up in your ear and I'm going to say, try wearing a cheerful pink, because it's just as if someone died. And get off your knees. Not that I've ever done that. So as I was saying, you may get to a point where you say, one, I'm staying out of my head. And, at that time, presence will just naturally rise, as Eckhart puts it. So if you do enough of that, according to him, that's when the answer will come to you, a solution will come to you. And two, you'll go all in terms of your faith and do any helpful actions that would speed that faith along. And so at that point, you might get very strong déjà vu feelings. And I would say that possibly déjà vu are turning points in our multiple lives that we've lived, each one lending to a higher self, which therefore lends to a higher life. And how many turning points do you get? Maybe as many as the sun rises. And so Because even if you exit stage left, so to speak, in a more direct way, even though personally I think that all exits are actually exit stage lefts, if you catch my drift. I mean, this might actually tie into Anthony Peake's hypothesis of what happens when we die. So I tried to find the link to that video where Greg Moffet from Legalize Freedom interviews Anthony on this, because it's like a beautiful kind of Groundhog Day analogy where you keep on living your life again and again until you've maybe lived the best version of your life. And then the hows and whys are answered in that interview. So, but any thoughts, feel free to add them. And you know, I've tried my best to speak a little bit faster here, but you know, any other comments is really welcomed. It should now let me just stop the video so I can stop rambling at the end. Oh, for goodness sake, pop up. I'll have to press that. Right, professional ending. I think you agree.